What's up, guys? Sorry, I had to take care of something. That's why the live ended. Sorry about that, guys. I had to take care of something. That's why the live ended abruptly. I had husbandly and fatherly duties to do. But I wanted to play you guys one of my videos, which you probably haven't seen yet. Hey, AR, I'm dropping the link. Hey, Maven. There you go, AR. Man, that court hearing was something else today. Did you get to watch it, Maven? Hey there, brother.
Hey, my man, how are you?
I'm doing okay. I had to go to do some husbandly and fatherly duties. That's why I ended the live stream.
Well, I know how you feel. I jumped over onto Lana's live, and Jen's messaging me, so I'm getting a little stuff ready for her. We're gonna take her over to the hospital a little bit later when she gets home and get her checked out. So we'll hopefully we'll get some good news and she won't have to stay. But as you know, she's been battling illness for a little while now, so it's been a tough road. And today was her first day back at work, and the first thing that she messaged me about being there after about an hour and a half was she didn't feel well, and they were looking at taking her to the hospital. So we'll see how that goes. I'll keep you posted as we go.
You know I'll be praying for you, AR. You and Jen.
Yep, definitely appreciate that. This is maybe the most lives we've ever done in a day, huh?
Yeah, the one this afternoon, and then you and Kiki, and I came in like 10 minutes later. No, I came in like 10 minutes before the live ended, and then this one.
Yeah, and Lana over Truth and Transparency had me over there for a little while, so that was fun. And you know, I like to engage with her. That's a good experience too. So this is more lives than I'm used to. Drunk turkey the other night. I might have to take a break. I'm kind of tired. More work than I do in a month.
Yeah. So I want to hear your breakdown of the of everything that we discussed earlier today with the hearing. Um, I want to hear your breakdown, as well as my breakdown. For one, did it seem that Brett Payne was kind of halfway lying on the stand, or he was holding stuff back? Because I mean, it would, when he made the statement that they've lost some things along the way, and possible evidence has been lost, but he kept going back to the evidentiary thing that you and I were talking about earlier in the live. Is he kind of halfway? Is he kind of halfway throwing people under the bus as he's up there testifying?
That's a great question, Robert. And the thing about people's demeanor when they're put into a hard spot, as you know, can show a lot of telltale signs. I don't know. I don't want to jump too quickly into an idea that Brent Payne is just blatantly lying or trying to manipulate or do things like that. Now, do I get the gut feeling that maybe he's in a little bit over his head? He's probably not experienced to the full gamut as many people are that can handle that. I mean, you have to ask yourself too at the end of the day how and maybe you'll have a little more insight into it than I do, and I want to look into it. How many times do you think Brent Payne has actually had to be the lead investigator and sit up there on the stand and give any sort of testimony in regards to a case like this?
This might be his first time because he served in the military, which I do salute him serving in the military and defending our country, but as being thrust as lead investigator in this case, just like Steve G has stated in the past, the Moscow Police Department is in way over their heads in this case, because this is the first time in like a long, like many years that something like this has happened in Moscow. So, he could be in over his head, and just like what Cyree was stating, that you can't make a cash report without cell phone data, and Mallory did a cash report without cell phone data. So,
the funny thing is Mallory has more experience than Payne does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Payne has never actually even been a part of an investigation of a murder before. And the due diligence that other people that, have done a lot of research with me, and they shared some very key tips. This would be the very first time. I mean, obviously we know he's never been a lead before, but this is legitimately his very first time even working into a case of this significance. So, that he's going to be, what's a good word for it? He's going to be a little shaky on his feet. You know what I mean? He's not going to have the full confidence to get up on. And then I think at the end of the day, what he could possibly also be worried about is, what am I allowed to say? What am I not allowed to say? What will Bill Thompson lose his cap of his hair off of his face? And if I say this, how bad is it going to hurt the investigation? Where does this fit in with the guy? I just don't think he fully understands the gamut of what he's into. But I do feel as though him referring if you want that piece of evidence, it's going to be over at the evidentiary vault at the Moscow Police Department. Man, whether you turn that over to the prosecution or not. You know exactly where it's at. We could all play stupid. This is the biggest case probably in Idaho history, and you're the lead investigator, and you're not digging into it to where every single little fact of this case. You don't know where your evidence is. You don't know what's going on here. I mean, you're really looking foolish. He looked foolish.
Yeah.
But Mowry did before him too. Mowry looked foolish the other night on this, or the other day on the stand as well. So, is it coached? Is this coming from the prosecution? Like, just don't give it up. We got your back. We'll fix this down the road. Or is this real and true? And they just don't have certain things. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see what the next move is and what comes out next.
Yeah, and see, and just like in the earlier live, when Christy Nevada made the statement that that video of the car driving in front of the house and going by the house and turning around by the house. If that's missing or was not saved, is that error done by the police and the investigators by not saving that piece of evidence, or did, like you were saying earlier, did they destruct it because they didn't they thought that the white car didn't fit their narrative on exactly what was going on that night?
And I think that's something, Robert, that all of us as citizens of the United States that, follow the constitutional law and work through how our justice system works, we all need to take a step back, take a seat, and really ponder within our minds, is our justice system holding itself accountable, doing things the appropriate way? When I say the justice system, that includes law enforcement within the investigative methods that they're using and tools. And I'm not saying that all of them are corrupt or just outright liars or planting evidence or doing anything of that nature, but maybe the lack of training, maybe, it's getting to the point that corners are starting to possibly be cut. And this is going to come into an important thing, that laws may have to start to be changed. Procedures may have to start to be changed, because we're getting certain things into play, like IgG type usage and more detailed cell phone usage and stuff of that nature. Are we going to really have to go in and dissect what's going to be available, to help train these investigators, to help them improve in the methods that they're doing? Because I really feel at the end of the day right now, this case is getting dissected from so many different viewpoints that they weren't expecting. It's going to put a lot of stuff in people's eyes and minds. It's going to be very debatable, and it's going to be interesting. Now, if somebody gets caught lying or perjuring themselves, it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't. I mean, we do know of Stickergate. I'm sure you remember Stickergate.
Yeah. And
very same department, same people.
Yeah, and I was my last live, I played Nico's Neuro Nuggets, and she actually raised a very valid question. Could this possibly be Stickergate Part 2?
Yeah. Could this be 3 in a row? Because you still have the case before that of the chiropractor that was accused of murder, and they falsified evidence in that case as well. And that's the very same person that was a part of this investigation of the Idaho fort. So is it common practice? I did a video in regards to routine and common practices of the everyday people within life. If you get accustomed to doing something, or even being able to get away with something, you can continue to learn how to do it and do it better. Was this an attempt to do that? Did they have to cut corners to solve this crime as quickly as they possibly could? And that led to, well, maybe some stuff that, we'd rather not them be doing.
Yeah, and this is the first time that I have actually seen Bill Thompson sit there quiet. Like he he would not, when Cyree was up there testifying, Bill Thompson was quiet. He had his head down, looking at something like writing notes. And this was the first time I've actually ever seen him not say a word during the court hearings. And I noticed, like, towards the end, he was purple. Like, he was so mad, he was turning purple.
Yeah, well, Bill Thompson, the typical, temper tantrum on a drop of a dime. He was rather quiet in the last hearing, but they at least cross-examined, Mowry, and then of course the lady, cross-examined Jennings, cross-examined Payne today, but they wanted nothing to do with the cross-examination of Cyree. They did not want to give the expert. And I'm telling you, Robert, that Cyree was the expert in the room, and he is by far the most intelligent expert that's spoken at any point during this trial, or not trial, but this, the hearings that we've seen. And the prosecution wanted no part of that. They wanted no part of it.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder if Christy and Steve was there at the hearing. Were they getting mad? Were they getting mad at the fact that basically Cyree was punching holes in this case? I've been kind of pondering that today.
I have a lot of thoughts to go out to the Gonzalez because I know they're really bad. I mean, this is a very serious situation, that they're enduring, and a lot of us that haven't endured something like this wouldn't know how to do it. I can't tell them how to do that, but I think lately, from what I've seen, and I feel it's been a good move. I don't believe they've been in the courtroom for these last few hearings, and I believe that's a pretty wise move because it would be very emotional. It would be very difficult to hear the possibility that the case is falling apart or holes are being poked or anything of that nature. So they've made a wise decision. They're going to stay over in their bubble. They're going to confide in the people that they have trust with. Is that a good thing? Probably not, because that means it's a very closed-minded situation that they're not willing to hear that there's possibly errors or issues within the case. Where you and I are more open and we'll hear all sides. I'm willing to hear people tell me how guilty the guy is because it could give me a frame of mind that I could discuss that. And at the end of the day, by them not being able to have an open mind, because they definitely have showcased that they feel like Brian Kohberger is the guilty party, and that the clothes that they wear and everything signify that. It's best for them to stay a little bit more distant, and I'm actually quite proud to see they haven't done any live interviews while this is going on. Yeah, so I mean that's a good sign too. I mean, you bringing up the fact of how quiet and downright out of the view that Bill Thompson's been. Well, think about normally at every hearing that we go into or any big day within this case, we see the Gonzalez doing a live interview on national TV, and now we're not seeing that. So
yeah,
that could be a sign as well. Where's the confidence now?
Yeah, and I'm not sure. Someone that in my last live said that said that Ashley Jennings made the comment towards the end of the hearing that they have other suspects they're looking at, that they could be looking at, but.
Well, I think all of us would agree you need to do that. I think the investigation should go where it leads you. You should never lead an investigation. The investigation should lead you to find the end results and the truth of what's happening. And I believe by her actually acknowledging Well, we got to look at other things and other suspects. It's about damn time you're willing to admit that. You know what I mean? I mean, you
Yeah.
got to start somewhere. That's a good place to start, is being truthful, that you have to take into account other possibilities.
Yeah, because just was like Ray when he was testifying today, that there's 82% of the data that's missing, and there's only 18% of the data. And I think that's why he's decided to testify for the defense, because he sees stuff in that in the pings and the CAF report and everything else that's not setting right with him. And I think that's because he said normally he testifies for the prosecution in cases like this. This is the first time he's actually testified for the defense in a case like this, because Nick, who is the FBI cast guy, him and Nick is friends, and Nick sent over the cast to him, to Cy, and they've been, I guess, conversing back and forth. I think Cy knows that Brian didn't do it. That's why he's decided to testify for the defense, because Cy, who invented half the stuff that's being used in this case, can see in that CAS report that stuff is not matching up. And he even knocked Mowry by doing a CAS report without using cell data. So if that's the case, maybe Cy knows something exculpatory in this case, which the prosecution does want no part of.
That's a very fair statement. I mean, Cy, I didn't expect it, and I know many others probably didn't either, but he clearly used the word exculpatory in his testimony today on the stand. And that's bold. That's very, very bold for somebody that's got the credentials that this gentleman does, and the background and the hard work that he's put in. And, he knows he has a reputation, and many have battled whether that's a good or a bad. I mean, the man has worked hard and he's had a good reputation. Otherwise, he wouldn't have worked the cases he did and worked his way up, through law enforcement and gotten to the point of where he's at. And he clearly used the word exculpatory, and it was in conversation regarding evidence in this case. So that's a combination that you don't hear very often in a courtroom, for one. And I mean, it was clear as day. There's going to be a battle. There's going to be a battle, and the way Cy Ray presented himself on the stand today, that battle is going to go pretty well when he gets in front of a jury, because he sounds very confident, very knowledgeable. He's friendly, he's likable, and he seems to be very, very honest. So it's going to be hard to beat on the stand.
Yeah, that kind of leads me up to my next question. Do you think that Jennings and Thompson could fight to keep him off the stand when they go to trial?
Say that again. Can they what now?
Do you think Jennings and Thompson could fight to keep him off the stand when they go to trial? Because they don't want anything coming. They don't want anything coming in between them and their little witch hunt.
And I agree, because I mean, obviously they've already filed a motion in regards to Brian Koberger's expert witnesses, that they want to limit the amount of witnesses, especially expert, that Brian Koberger can call to the stand based off of his alibi, in the sense that he didn't give a full alibi. But what a lot of people don't understand is the defense does not have to call Cy Ray for an alibi defense for Brian Koberger. if they really wanted to, and I've tried to explain this to people from a sense of where I've come from, what I've been through, and you kind of understand the court system yourself as well.
Yes.
You don't have to say anything at any point in time. You don't have to put up any defense at any point in time. So if I deem I'm not going to turn over an alibi, I'm just going to go ahead and say I'm not going to use an alibi defense. I'm not going to call expert witnesses to verify or try to prove my alibi. I'm just leaving all that alone. Anytime the prosecution, who actually has to prove you guilty, that the people's got to remember that. The prosecution has to prove guilt. The defense has to prove nothing. They just have to discredit anything that gets a little bit of reasonable doubt to come into play. So I don't need to put on a defense. I just need to rebuttal your prosecution offense. So where do you think Cy Ray will come in? If the defense is saying we want to limit all of the defense's expert testimony in regards to the alibi, we're not going to allow him to testify on the behalf of Brian Koberger. What did Ann Taylor already state she was planning on doing?
Yeah, I can't remember.
She was going to use the experts' witnesses to provide Brian Koberger's alibi.
That's right.
So what that means is we're going to go ahead and let the prosecution put on their complete portrayal of where they think Brian Koberger was, what Brian Koberger was doing, how he was doing it, why he was doing it. So the prosecution's going to put on their whole case. The defense is going to sit back and weigh out the option. They're going to say, how well is this going? Like, are they proving anything here? Because if they can't prove he was even in the house, they can't prove he killed him. So then we don't have to do anything. However, if the prosecution's making a little bit of sense, and you feel like the jurors are kind of swaying that way, all you have to do every time an expert witness comes up, you cross-examine that witness, and then you say, Your Honor, we have a rebuttal witness to the state's witness. Now you can't, as a prosecutor, you can't say they can't testify. So all they got to do every time a state's witness comes up to talk about the cast report or where they feel Brian Koberger was or where the car was, we have a rebuttal witness we'd like to call Cy Ray. And then he gets up and he makes a complete mockery of everything that they've laid out before him. And now what? Now what can the state do? They can't say he can't testify. They can't keep him off of the stand. So he's going to testify either way.
Yeah, and what kind of struck to me was when Cy Ray said that from his analysis is that Brian never left. Brian went southeast of Pullman, which everyone's been discussing in Wildlife Park, and from his calculations of the cast report, Brian never went to Moscow that night via his calculations in the cast report. His cell phone pings was from Wildlife Park. And as soon as he said that, I saw Bill Thompson starting to turn purple.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the prosecution doesn't like it, but I think even the bigger statement that Cy Ray and what came out when Ann Taylor was kind of picking at the PCA being written, and she had, Payne on the stand, and she said, so the 95, which is leaving Moscow south, that you utilized within your PCA, and Payne had to stop her and say, no, there's a couple of different exits out of there that he could have gotten to get on the highway that we portrayed him on, south of Moscow. She said, oh, okay. And she started talking about the video from all the stops on that very route that they were talking about. And Payne had to admit the car was never seen on that video. So you're telling me you have video, and it's of the route you claim the car drove, but you don't have the car on the video. So now what?
Yeah.
Where do you get deemed now? You don't even have video of the car. Now what? You know, I mean, there's so much that's going to go into this, and I know there's a lot of conversation that's going to come, and it's going to get wild. It's going to get out there. But the defense is in a pretty good spot right now because they have options to grow. You know, whether they want to head into a Franks motion, whether they want to, you know, go ahead and go for suppression of evidence. And then obviously after suppression of evidence, then you do a Franks motion, then you do a dismissal motion. You know, the big question that maybe Bill Thompson's nervous about is, well, Ann Taylor's made it quite clear she feels there's been prosecutorial misconduct done in this case. Are we starting to see evidence of that? Are we starting to see it? And that could be very important to Bill Thompson's strategy here moving forward, because I don't feel that he's going to want to battle too hard, you know, the prosecutorial misconduct when only 18% of the work legitimately has been turned over, I guess. Maybe more than that may be done now, but that's what they claim has been turned over. 18%, and you're prosecuting somebody, I think you could have some problems.
Yeah. Well, it makes me wonder, 18%, where's the other 82%?
Well, that's the question, yeah. And, you know, why didn't you better organize the videos? Because you really got to break that down, too. And I had a great conversation with Swamp about this in regards to the videos. You know, if you're going to put them in as evidence, and I'm saying if you're the prosecution and you're going to utilize video evidence to put the car at the scene, around the scene, driving wherever you're at, you should have that exact video to display that. Well, what it's made to see right now is it's so disorganized, they don't know where that portion of the video is. Well, if you don't know where that portion of the video is, Mr. Thompson, how are you going to introduce it as evidence to the court?
Yeah.
If you can't even verify whether you turned it over to the defense and where it is within the discoverable evidence, how are you going to provide that at trial? Either A, you're lying right now and you know exactly where it's at, or man, you're going to have to be digging to find that, you know, for trial, and that would tell me you don't even know what's on that video.
Yeah, a very valid point. It makes me wonder. In all honesty, is there a cover-up going on here? Because you have Brett Payne saying, "Well, we lost some things along the way," but did they lose?
You know, it's always.
Did they lose it in the evidence vault, or?
I want to say I hope that a cover-up is not in play. I hope that our justice system is capable of taking people to trial based upon legitimate work and effort, and the courts are going to hold everybody accountable and do what they do. But, you know, at the end of the day, you know, it's just so hard. Is this incompetence? Is this the fact that they're so inexperienced that they've never dealt with something like this before? And that's why Bill Thompson has a track record of not battling these things out in the courtroom, and he's willing to give plea agreements to very high-profile murder cases just to get them to plea out and, you know, move along. Is this also a case where Bill Thompson's so, self-conscious about this and lack of confidence that he left himself the opening to take the death penalty off the table? I mean, there's a lot of questions that go into this. I just hope at the end of the day it's not a cover up. I hope this is not malicious and intentional. I hope that it's literally just incompetence is what I hope it comes back as, or just they're gonna figure it out, and maybe some people will get in trouble for it, but they'll find it at the end of the day. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, see, I went back and watched a Stephen Christie interview earlier, and Chris, I've never, I've never lost a child the way that they have, but the way Christie put it, she when they asked for the rest of Kaylee's stuff, they told the Gonzalez family was in the storage unit, and she said that her own daughter don't even have a name in this case. All she is bedroom number 2, and
It's pretty sad.
Yeah, and she said her name was Kaylee, and she said it's not bedroom number 2. She said even though she was labeled in the storage unit as bedroom number 2, she said Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan, those names are forgotten. She said now they're just bedroom number 1, bedroom number 2, bedroom number 4, in a storage locker, and she said I pray no other family in history will ever have to go through what we're going through, that our daughter is just known as a bedroom.
Yeah, I would be infuriated by that. And to be honest, I'm glad you brought. I've never actually. That's something that I've never heard before. So that's even more heartbreaking. That's really sad.
Yeah. Now you were talking earlier about 17 cell phone dumps. Now I know we got up to what, like 10, but who are the other cell phone dumps? The remaining 7. That's what I've been perplexed by most of the day. That we made it up to 10, but who are the other 7 dumps?
Yeah, I think literally what the hardest part of that's going to be. I mean, I'm sure we can count up to 12 or 13 that we would feel pretty confident would be a part of, the different cell phones they would look into. But outside of that, the last 4, 4 or 5 that maybe we just don't feel as though are directly solid candidates for that would all be rotating. You could rotate a name in and it would make sense, or you could take it out and it would make sense. So that's what would be so hard about trying to figure that out. And how would they have got the warrants to be able to get it? And it'll be very interesting to see. But that's all debate. I mean, that's all stuff that we could just randomly sit here and throw names at a wall and they could stick or they could fall off. Who knows?
Yeah, because with if it's true that the cast report has major holes in it, is incomplete. No cast report means no motive. No motive means means there was no intent. And even the judge and the prosecutor has stated in an earlier court hearing that Brian Koberger was not stalking the victims, which kind of blew my mind, because we've all been fed this this media narrative of, oh, he was stalking the victims, 12 pings, 12 pings, 12 pings. But even when the FBI said some of those pings, he wasn't anywhere near the house. So, what's really going on?
And that's the biggest question of all of it. And just like Heather reiterated what I said earlier, that word exculpatory being used in the courtroom by somebody with, I would say, the stature of Cyré. I mean, people know his work. He's not just somebody that came out of the woodwork and nobody knows him. I mean, he's pretty established in what he does, and now we're hearing exculpatory, and that's a big deal. That's a very big deal.
Yeah. And just to see, as soon as it's exculpatory, you saw the judge started writing notes down in his notepad. When Brett Payne was up there testifying, the judge looked kind of blah, kind of bored. But as soon as Cyré came on the stand, oh, he was alert and he was taking notes. And
you got to remember, though, Brett Payne's, all his affidavits, all his paperwork is already right before the judge, and all of the files and the motions and everything that went into the discoverable evidence. That isn't the case with Cyré's, because they have not so far admitted Cyré's in as any type of factual exhibit or documentation. I mean, even the judge today asked if they wanted to do that, and they shook them off and said, not yet, it's coming. So that's also maybe why the judge was a little more attentive, is he had not heard or seen anything that was being spoken of by Cyré as of yet.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Yeah, as far as Judge John Judge goes, he needs to take more assertiveness in his court. And I'm honestly thinking that this is the first time he's ever had a case like this. Yeah, in Moscow. Yeah, this is the first time he's ever had to judge over a quadruple homicide. And he just seems, when he's up there on the bench, he seems so blasé, like he doesn't have a care. But I noticed today he was getting onto Ann Taylor a lot more than he has in the prior hearings.
And I was talking with Lana, and I gotta give her a shout out over Truth and Transparency. She's a great gal. It was a great conversation. But I've had this discussion with her as well, and I've had it with Lucky and Mayhem and with you. And I think we all agree this is a judge that is uncomfortable in the setting that he's in. We can tell he's inexperienced. He doesn't have the self-confidence. I personally have never been in a courtroom where the judge literally did not know they were the ultimate power in the courtroom. Like, he literally made the statement that he didn't know if he could make that decision or not, or make that call. And I'm like, what? Wait a minute, you're the ultimate voice in this courtroom. That's what you are. You are the lead, and you don't know if you can make that decision? That's crazy. It's crazy.
I mean, in what case in the history of the judicial system and the cases we've been covering, this is the first time I've ever seen in a court case, whether it be like a preliminary hearing or whatever, that the prosecution looks so confused. Like, I've never seen even back in when the O.J. Simpson trial was going on back in the mid-90s. Yeah, you've never seen anything going on in cases throughout history like what's going on in Idaho right now. Like, you have a prosecutor who throws a temper tantrum when he don't get his way, or they look so confused when they're sitting there like, why are we even here?
Yeah, I mean, and Heather actually made the exact statement I was looking for. I think you've overestimated my powers, is what Judge makes a statement to Ann Taylor, and Ann Taylor briefly under her breath says, I think you underestimate your powers. And she threw it right at him, pretty much saying, you're weak, man. Make a decision already. Let's step up to the plate here and figure this out, because you're failing. Yeah, and this is sad. This is really, really sad. So, I mean, you have to ask yourself, if it's this big of a confusion and this big of an issue, like you're saying right now, what are we going to do when we get into the motions for suppression of evidence? Where's his confidence going to be, and his feel of power that he's going to be able to use on that? I mean,
just like Heather just said in chat, out of 79 cameras in the area, only 10 of them had items preserved. That 69 camera footage is not even saved.
Yeah, and I get. So here's kind of the argument that would have to transpire out of that, is the people that look at the other so-called evidence that they're finding Brian Goldberger guilty of, and they're going to say, well, they didn't need, the other 69 cameras. They got 10 of them, and that's all they needed. And that would be the prosecution, and then they would, turn that over to the defense. The problem with that is you have to have the totality turned over to the defense so that the defense can put up their case and look for exculpatory evidence. So you're telling me only 10 of those cameras matter. Well, how are you going to tell me the other 69 didn't show something that was very important for the defendant? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And Heather's exactly right, and that was kind of the point I was making before she joined us, and I'm in agreement with her. What did they actually do? And this kind of goes to the point of you making the statement, is it a cover-up? What was done by the investigators and everything in regards to that, with those cameras, that footage, anything in regards to the route or the possible routes that Brian Kohberger supposedly drove or could have possibly drove? Because they made the statement at the very end. Payne clearly stated they don't know which route he took to get out of town. They just knew he ended up on that one road, and they don't know how he did it. And Ann Taylor pressed him even more and said, well, you do have footage of him there, right, on that road. You've got all these, she named a couple of different, video points, said you got camera footage from that, right? You got camera footage from there, right? No, we don't have the car on camera. Well, how's that possible? How's that possible? Somebody explain that to me. This car had to have gotten to this point, and there's numerous cameras, and he wasn't on any of them? How?
Yeah, that's very true. And just like Heather is making some statements here in chat, Payne said he used phrasing from others that told him what to say. When asked who told you, he said, you did, to Jennings.
Yeah, there was a slip up there. I believe that was a slip up on his part. Like, they did not want him to say that, but he did. I mean, they would have wished he had kept his mouth shut. But, I mean, he clearly, through the entire time, and I believe Heather's very on point. one, even in writing of his affidavits to get warrants and to get, the permanent arrest warrant, he didn't do it on his own. He had to rely on somebody else to help him write those. And that's why they really just don't come across well, poorly worded, because he didn't know what to say or how to say it. He was going off based on what other people have said. So, at the end of the day, he just missaid it. And then on top of that, it was like when he's getting cross-examined after being examined by Ann Taylor, and Jennings steps up, instead of Brent Payne ever taking any responsibility for anything he ever did, do you notice he just pointed the finger at everybody else?
Yeah.
Nope, I didn't do that. They did it. Nope, I didn't do that. They did it. I didn't ask for that. You did. I mean, it was like, here we go. Here we go.
Yeah, just like Heather said on screen, Cy flat out said that the map that was done cannot be done without having historical data from AT&T.
And I want to take a quick minute because Twizzle is in, and he was
Twizzle.
at the hearing today.
Yes.
So it's great to see him. I'm a big fan of his, and I call him a good friend. So I'm glad to see him here, and I hope you had a great day, Twiz. I hope it went well. I hope you retreated well, and everything went well. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about it.
But yeah, now how can you do a cast report, AR, without the data? You can't. You can't do a cast report without the data. Even Cy Ray pointed that out today, that the report that Brett Payne did, or should say Mowry did, can't be done without the cell data. And Mowry did it without the cell data. So, does that mean that the cast report that Payne and Mowry have can be thrown out?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question, because Cy Ray pretty much just deemed everything that Mowry claimed he did is false and couldn't have been done. And I was definitely listening as hard as I could, and obviously I'm not an expert, so I got to go back and do some research and different things. But clearly what he stated is, one, the work wasn't done, and two, even if the work was to have been done, they didn't have the information or the data back to be able to do it correctly. So I mean, he literally pretty much said there's only a couple options when it comes to how this was done. It was either incorrectly done, it wasn't done, or it was maliciously done. That's a pretty bold statement. So Heather just typed, yep, today was a win for the state. I don't know if she's telling jokes.
Well, she said LOL the next two comments down. I think it was a win for the defense today, because they're systematically exposing everything about this case. And I think that's why Bill Thompson got so purple-faced today, is because he sees what they're doing and he don't like it, because he doesn't want anything to come in between him and his perfect little death penalty case against Brian Kohberger, because honestly, I think Bill Thompson don't want to face the victims' families, but and say, hey, we got the wrong guy.
Well, you got even bigger than that. Do you think Bill Thompson wants Ashley Banfield or Nancy Grace calling him out for losing the case when he should have never been able to lose that case? They had so much evidence. How could they let this one slip through their hands? Because they never had the evidence they said they had. I'm sorry. I mean, let's just state it the way it is. It's starting to show its ugly head. I don't need to go make like false claims of certain types of evidence, or this person did it, or that car was involved, because I don't know those things to be fact without being able to see the entirety of the discoverable evidence. But the one thing I can make a pretty bold statement on is every day that we hear a little more about how the state is working with the so-called evidence, it seems that they either don't have it, it was incorrectly gotten, or this is literally a case that's going to involve prosecutorial misconduct.
Yeah, just
I
like
think
Yeah, there's Heather's statement on the screen. Anyone
she's
that
definitely
can't,
bold tonight.
yeah, anyone that can't acknowledge that the state's case is looking super mega ultra sus is an absolute alien, not from this earth, or an idiot, or has no understanding at all what just happened.
Well, I'm glad she called me out for the truth of the news. No, I'm kidding. And I kind of had to laugh about it. And everybody knows I went over and I had a conversation with Daniel at Drunk Turkey Show, and it's like, man, wouldn't tomorrow have been the better day to have that conversation? Because I would have really had some solid firepower to go in there with, even though there is other firepower. Today could have been, that type of day. I really put my foot down. I say, look, man, let's discuss some real solid issues where, they're just becoming bolder and bolder before our eyes. And these are very creditable people, very, very creditable people showcasing these issues. It would have been far different if it was some expert that came from Egypt that had never worked a case before, and they started to put some of this stuff together. This is Cy Ray, and I don't care what people try to do to discredit his work or his credentials. He's earned his credentials, and I guarantee you that other law enforcement agencies reach out to him for his expertise and his help, and now many want to try to discredit that just because they so badly want this case to be wrapped up and Brian Koberger to be the one, that they're willing to really dox this guy's expertise and capabilities. I just don't think that's right. I don't think that's fair. So if he was on the prosecution side, they wouldn't do that.
Yeah, Twizzlestick said, AT or Massoth said Lewiston for a reason today.
I'll have to go back and figure out when they were talking about Lewiston.
I think you struck a nerve with Heather, AR.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll hear about.
She said, blah, 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 all to all, blah, blah, blah to all, that attempt to discredit. But if the guy was on the stand for the state and not the defense, you would be basking in that glow.
and yeah, I absolutely agree with her. That's what I was stating. I mean, if he was sitting on the prosecution side, they would be glamoring about his work history and the way he built his expertise. And because he's not, because he's on the defense side with Brian Koberger, now we got to tear him apart. He's a nothing and a nobody. That's not the way this works. And, that's a point that I wanted to talk about and I wanted to make. And when it comes down to law enforcement, when they take the stand, needs to take the stand not to convict somebody. They take the stand to talk about the facts and the truth that they found within their investigation. Let the prosecution attempt to prove the person guilty. Don't the officers just need to get the evidence in and let it get working. But then I don't know. It's just crazy to see. It's crazy to see. I see we have Granny Sleuthing. I don't think I've ever seen Granny Sleuthing before. Welcome. Is she new to your chat?
I'll tell you in back chat really quick.
I mean, oh Lord is not normally a good statement. Okay. Okay. Well, Granny Sleuthing, welcome. Whether you want to pin everything on me and I'm the guilty party, that's fine. But welcome.
Yeah, welcome, Granny Sleuthing.
Yeah,
But
definitely welcome.
But yeah, I mean, in your opinion, AR, do you feel that this case is unraveling before our eyes? Like like unraveling in a bad way that the prosecution may be in trouble?
I think we've all been screaming that from a long time ago, right? I mean, as content creators, we want justice. We want it done appropriately. But I think every single one of us, even people like Heather Fitzgerald with a great mind, and those out there that discuss this case, the Maven, I think we've seen the issues from a while ago. So,
Yeah.
is it becoming more and more every day unraveling? Yeah, because now this is the transparency that we all scream for. Could you imagine if these court hearings that happened, the other day and then again today were closed and we didn't get to see any of this? We'd have no knowledge of this.
No.
None.
And none. And I think that's why Bill Thompson is wanting closed hearings, because he doesn't want us as the public and us as content creators to see that this case that he has prized for a little over 18 months is crumbling in his hands, and he don't like the fact that it's crumbling, because he's going to have to go back to and make the retraction that, hey, yeah, I made a mistake. This guy's not the guy. But, just like Ashley Jennings made the statement that there are other suspects to look at. Okay, so why aren't you looking at those other suspects? And, why are you solely focusing on this guy sitting in the defendant's seat and not looking at those other suspects?
It's a good question, and Heather's absolutely correct. And I've been around a lot of solid cases put on by the state. Unfortunately, I've been nailed by a couple of them myself. You don't see these even types of hearings happening. You don't see the issues with the evidence. You don't see the back and forth like this prior to trial. I mean, they get it moving, and everything's, pretty well handled and pretty well organized. And this one's just all over the place and in complete shitville. So,
now I do. Twizzlestick just brought up a very good point. I'd say Ann Taylor said Brent last week for a reason.
Yeah, and guys, I've been throwing it out there, and I think people have really read under the lines that I am a firm believer that Brent is a major part of this case, like major. And I know I'm going to take backlash on it, and that's okay. We all have our beliefs. We all have the stances that we take, and I just believe that the way everything's been handled, and the redactions and the hidden materials and the closed and the seedlings and the closed hearings and all of that that's going on, and then just a complete cover-up of everything about Brent Kopacka just leads me to believe there's a tie there. There's a real tie.
Yeah, Twizzle
and Twizzle. Yeah, he was the first one that I believe was being investigated in this crime. No doubt in my mind. They were on to him, and I did a video. They were on to Brent before they were on to Brian. No doubt.
Yeah, because see, he gave us in that body cam. I think it was you, myself, and Sophie watched a while back. He gave his address as 1455, and yeah, and I looked at it last night. Brian's apartment complex and Brent's apartment complex was like right across the street from each other, because because what's her name, Carmen Hernandez, which I don't think she did anything. I think because she kept saying that she couldn't find her keys. I think that somebody stole her keys and stole her car and did that horrible thing to those two pedestrians. But you could see Brian's apartment complex, and across the way you could see Brent's apartment complex. So,
didn't they say that young lady is still locked up at this point for that?
Yes.
Yeah, and that wouldn't be the case for a young individual that was their very first time in a vehicular. I don't think the people died, right? I think it just became a really bad injury. People at the hospital.
Yeah, they didn't die. They didn't die. It was they were just like messed up really, really bad.
So come on, you and I both know the system. Worst case scenario, she would have got a first time DUI with a little bit of vehicular damage or whatever, and got 1.5 years. She's been down now for over 1.5 years.
Twizzlestick said she did 9 months. Twizzlestick says I think she did 9 months.
Okay. Well, I mean, if she's already out, that would make sense. If she was still locked up, then she's going to be an informant on somebody that stole her car.
Yeah, because I saw that. I was watching it on. I was watching the body cam the other day on Crime Circus, and you could clearly see her. She wasn't intoxicated. She was not intoxicated. She was standing there clear-eyed talking to the two Pullman police officers, and every time that they showed a picture of her car, she said, "Sir," she goes, "I was trying to find my keys. I don't know where my keys are," and she was like confused when they told her about her car, about her being in a serious accident with her car, running over 2 people, and she's like, "What? Huh?" And she goes, "I was looking for my keys," and she was talking about her little sister. She went to pick up her little sister, who was at a frat party. So I'm wondering if maybe her sister didn't steal the car and take the car for a joyride, and what happened is what happened. But yeah, she kept saying, and she was even telling the booking the booking officer, why am I here? I was looking for my keys. That's all I was doing. And they were trying to tell her what her charges were. She goes, what did I do? I didn't do nothing. I was looking for my keys. So maybe that's why she only got 9 months, was they knew that she wasn't involved in what happened that night.
Excuse me for 1 minute. Tell it to Ellie. It's great to see you.
Hello.
And you seem to have a little bit more knowledge than I do, for sure. So I'd love to pick your brain. So she got no jail, ankle monitor for 9 months, and a $15,000 fine per court docs. Did she just plead out? Tell it to Ellie. Did she literally just take a plea bargain on that and admit that it was her driving, or how did that transpire? Because she did, from what people have explained to me, I've had a couple of people in chat outside of this explain it to me too. I haven't gone over and watched it myself, but they've seen, I guess, the body cam, and she just really looked like she had no idea what the officers were talking about or what happened. Yeah. So it sounds like that Teletally was able to look at the court docs for that. So Have great morning. Got eye surgery. Must go take care of it. Okay. So Teletele, was it like a plea agreement or was it? That looked so much. Okay. Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean there's a lot of people that they have good knowledge. I always love it when they share it because it helps me out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just so weird and so odd that all these two colleges, WSU and in Pullman and Moscow in the U of I in Moscow, all these weird incidents are happening in and around the campus, their respective campuses. You have Brian who lives in the campus apartments, and then you have this DUI driver who runs over two pedestrians. That's like, and it's like about a block from Brian's apartment, and then you have Brett Kopaka, who we still have not even heard the 911 call for, and he was shot. He was shot and killed by SWAT team members, and who's not even releasing the body cam for. So what's going on in these two college towns? Did someone put something in the water for all these weird incidents to happen, right, coinciding right around the same time as the unalivings?
Yeah. By the way, I sent you a back chat. Check that real quick. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. By the way, hey, Miss Kitty, it's great to see you. I may spend a few more minutes with you. I'm waiting for Jen to get with me in regards to whether we're going over to the hospital or not. And I was wondering if maybe the Maven wanted to step up and replace me and be on panel with you, or somebody may want to step up and go with you. I'm not trying to ditch out on you, but I got to try to help Jen here. So, yeah, I just wanted you to know what I was sending you there as well. So, yeah, I definitely would.
Yeah, that's being taken care of.
Thank you. So yeah, I mean, it was a huge day, obviously, in the courtroom, and the exciting thing about that is it gives us far more things to talk about, and that's always a good thing because it gets really kind of hard when we don't have a lot of information or things to talk about. So this kind of rejuvenates a little bit of that. So I'm going to kind of shake hands with you, my friend, and it looks. Looks like maybe the Maven can jump up here if you want to drop her link. She can let me hop off here, and I'll keep everybody informed. As everybody probably knows, before I head out, I mean, Jen, my wife, Jennifer, she's a big part of everything I do. Probably, one of the biggest parts of me being able to be the person that I am. She definitely is very sick. We thought she was getting better. As you guys saw, she did a live with me just the other night. Tonight was her first attempt to get back to the job and put in some time at work. And within an hour of being there, I was already being contacted that she was very ill and possibly on her way to the hospital. So she's kind of holding back at that time. She did message me about 7 o'clock saying that she had some medical attention there at work, which is a great thing. They do have a good medical team where she works. but it sounds like we're going to be making a late night trip to the hospital to see what's going on. So everybody, please just kind of to keep her in your thoughts and on your mind. Is we love all of you guys, and our subscribers and our community mean all of it to us. So I will definitely keep you guys posted on that. It's kind of crazy because I got to take her over, to get her checked out, and then I'm probably just going to stay and do my attempt at dialysis after that. So I'll be in touch with everybody tomorrow.
Now, is it the flu that she has, or something else, brother?
No, it's worse. It's far deeper than the flu. Well, it was far deeper than the flu. So, it came across like the flu, but it's definitely far deeper than that. So, we'll find out. We'll find out more tonight. I'll definitely let you guys know. But I appreciate everybody for thinking about her and keeping her in your thoughts, and thanks for putting up with me. And we'll definitely be back in touch, and I'll give updates tomorrow.
All right, love you, brother.
Love you too, and tell it to Ellie. Thank you so much. Great seeing you, Maeve, and great to hear your voice. Hope you guys have a great night.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you have a good night, brother.
Bye now.
Bye. Okay, so you haven't had a chance to watch the hearing?
I have not. I slept well last night.
Well, the hearing was an oh my God moment.
Yeah.
You had Cy Ray, who was basically setting up there, saying you cannot do a cast report without the cell data, because Mallory did the cast report without the cell data.
Yeah, that's kind of obvious. Isn't the cast report supposed to be a report of the data?
Yes.
So that's quite amazing that they tried to say that they did one and they didn't have the data. That's not good.
Yeah, and then you have Brett Payne up there stating that they lost some things along the way.
No, that's not surprising. Isn't there a parallel universe that both Idaho 4 and Delphi are like stuck in? All this missing data and deleted data, and I don't know how. The only thing I can think of in both of these cases is that the police and law enforcement, whatever agency, they really didn't believe that it would ever go to trial, that they could just, that so many innocent people take plea deals. I wish AR was actually here to mention, to comment on his thoughts on that. But it seems like to me that there are innocent people that take plea deals because they don't have the money to fight it. They don't have the resources. They don't have the faith in the system and they just want to get it over with.
Yeah, just like Tata L said, and they didn't believe Anne would fight for her client.
Right. Exactly. And which is the same in Delphi. It's amazing how many parallels there are.
Yeah.
But it's good to see in the system that there are occasions when the evidence so clearly either points to, or the lack of evidence is pointing to the innocence of the defendant, that there are people that will champion for them.
Yeah.
That's actually a good.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Like I did like a 4-hour live stream today of the court hearing, and yes, I had Kiki up on panel with me, and also AR, and just some of the stuff today in that court hearing was a very big bombshell.
Well, I'm looking forward to like going back and watching it. How long? So the hearing itself was 4 hours.
The hearing wasn't 4 hours. It
Mm-hmm.
was basically the hearing wasn't 4 hours. We did a 4 hour live about it today, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we did the hearing the first 2 hours, and then the last was like 2 hours of breakdown and discussion by me, Kiki, um, and AR.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Twizzlestick.
And
Swizzlestick says it was 3.5 hours with a break. Yeah. So go
but
ahead.
yeah,
You did all this commentary with AR and everything.
yeah, we did commentary with AR and we did commentary with Swamp Rose, and yeah, my God, I was going like, what the heck, like mostly through the live stream today, I was thinking, what the heck.
Wow. Well, I've been really caught up with the Karen Reed trial, and this week they only had one day this week on Tuesday that they were in court, and now they're off until next week. So this is a really perfect time for me to catch up on Idaho 4.
Yeah, I don't blame you, because I was going, I was shaking my freaking head through half of the court hearing today, because of all the just stuff going on. You had Brett Payne, basically, either he was lying or he was holding stuff back.
Hmm. Oh wow, I want to
And
yeah, I want to get a feel for who this Brett Payne is, because I've only seen his name in the reports and stuff. I've seen pictures of him, but I've never seen him talking and everything. I would definitely want to get a feel for what he's like.
oh yeah, what I saw today, uh, dude looked like an ugly bald Kojak.
Give him a lollipop.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness. Yeah, well, anyone that's not watching the Karen Reed trial, I would really recommend, going back. What, they're on day 18 now, but
yeah,
watch some of it, because I think the the fact that they're innocent, because a third party defense, and they've got somebody in there, they've got a group of people in their targets as far as who did it. Um, and Idaho 4, I think, is going to be very similar if it gets to trial, if it doesn't get thrown out and dismissed. Um, it will
yeah,
be similar, because I mean, yeah, somebody, even though his alibi, his defense is that he wasn't there. Um, I the way that the police investigation in the Karen Reed case is so sus, and so many, again, missing things and deleted things and people throwing away their phones and cameras not working and all this kind of stuff is so similar. I think it's a precursor to what will happen in the Idaho 4 trial and the Delphi trial, if those make it to
yeah,
trial.
yeah. I
I
mean,
don't know. I mean, I was going to say, I'm kind
just
of
like
wondering.
I
Oh,
was gonna say, just
I'm
like Judge.
wondering. Go
Hold on,
ahead.
just like Judge John Judge is stated, what, a couple weeks ago. Yeah, I don't even know if this is going to make it to trial.
Right. If there's pre-trial hearings that show enough real evidence that he wasn't there, then I can't imagine. This is what I was going to say, that I'm wondering about, if the prosecution would just, they don't want to be embarrassed. If it gets to the point that if they go through with the trial, they're going to be completely embarrassed by all the facts, lack of facts, lack of evidence, and, you know, facts that were made up. Um, it seems like that's the case in some of the things, and not following through on other suspects. you know, I mean, would they get to that? What's the tipping point for them, for the prosecution,
Yeah.
where it would lead to embarrassment, and because it would also lead to the specifics of their investigation. We don't know the facts. Everything's under investigation. We have to wait for the trial to hear the facts. Well, do they really want the facts to come out in a trial?
Yeah. Just by looking at the hearing today, Brett Payne was sitting up there looking like a freaking doofus.
Oh my goodness, I can't wait to see it. Yeah, I think that they really wanted somebody that, you know, to like lead the investigation, that they could manipulate, that they could mentor and advise. This is how you do this is how you write it up. This is this is how you do the PCA. This is how you do everything, you know, but in the end, it comes down to manipulation, and they don't have their names getting dirtied because they're making him the fall guy because he is so young and inexperienced. You know, and he's probably, in his perspective, thinking, "Ooh, I get to lead the investigation," fine, because there's a first time for everything. But I would think you wouldn't put such a big case into the hands of the first timer.
But yeah, just Cy Ray, he was sitting up there, and he was very composed and very intellectual, and he was basically poking holes in the prosecution's case. And Bill Thompson, by the end of the hearing, his face was purple.
Well, he's probably been advised by consultants or something that, like, look, everybody's saying that you're throwing temper tantrums and you look like a child, so you've got to stop that. And so if his nature is to be throwing a temper tantrum, and he's been told don't throw a temper tantrum because it makes you look bad, then what else is it going to do? He's going to turn beet red because he's holding all that back because he really just wants to explode. And I hope he doesn't have a heart attack or something.
No, Heather just said Santa caught the first flight to Tijuana after court.
Oh. It's funny. Didn't go to Disneyland.
Hammered and telling all that it will listen how BK is guilty.
Yeah, because they only speak Spanish, and so he doesn't. So they don't know what he's saying. Just nod their head. Yeah.
But they've only collected 18% of the cell phone data.
Yeah,
and
that's crazy.
There's 82% of that data missing. 82%.
And where is it? I mean, did they ever petition for it? Well, no, I'm sure that if they had asked the phone companies for the data, they would have handed it over. I think they just didn't ask for it.
Yeah.
They just asked for what they wanted.
Yeah, see, just like Cy Ray stated today, you've got to have the AT&T records to do the cast report. Without the AT&T records, this cast report, and he held up the piece of paper. He said without the AT&T records, this cast report is worthless. It's not evidence. It's just a piece of paper.
Was there anybody present that they could ask the question, where did you get the information for the cast report?
Brett Payne got the rough draft of the cast report from Mowry. Mowry did the cast report without using the cell phone data.
And so was Mowry there?
Mowry testified last week, and he was made to look like an even bigger doofus by Ann Taylor.
So he never testified as to where he got the data from to make the report.
He got the rough draft for the cast report from the FBI.
Huh.
And
we can't ask the FBI where they got their information.
No.
Interesting. It seems like they use the FBI a lot in this case. I mean, I know sometimes if you're a small department and you don't have resources and the FBI says, oh, well, we can help you with our resources, then okay. But then, so the FBI didn't get records from does the FBI have their own access to cell tower information?
Yes, they have what's called a cell site simulator. It's a portable cell tower.
A simulator. So that's not real information. That's just projected information.
Yeah, see, and a lot of the stuff that came out today. You know, I can see why Bill Thompson was purple by the end of the hearing. This case is being picked apart by the defense, and Bill Thompson don't like even Jennings. Alyssa Jennings said towards the end of the hearing, we have other suspects we can look at.
Yeah, but why didn't they? Or why don't they now? You know, Heather made a good comment a little while back. The real issue is if it's not BK, that means the real perp or perps are on the street at this very moment. And yes, that is very true. And I wonder if they're, following all this and thinking, well, if the prosecution's case is falling apart, are they going to start looking at us?
Yeah.
And
I
kind of lean towards two options. Either like a drug hitman that was told to make it, mess up somebody really, mess up this person or this person really bad. So they didn't, so it looks like a rage killing, but it doesn't, it's not actually their own rage. They're just doing it on behalf of their orders. So either drugs or the whole frat boy thing, which could also be related to drugs, but as far as the personal side of things happening, I lean towards them, or at least investigating them, rule them out. If it's not them, then get some real evidence to rule them out, not just take their word over a phone call or something and not actually, test their DNA, get real phone records. I mean, I doubt they would still have their phones.
Yeah. And something Brett Payne was stating today. They used Dylan and Bethany's phone as part of the cast report.
Well, what would they have anything to do with Brian Koberger and where he is?
I don't know.
Unless they were with him. Unless there's some cameras somewhere that showed them together.
That's just it. Brett Payne actually had to admit today that Brian's car was not spotted on any cameras south of Moscow.
Yeah. They just made that whole route just to say, oh, look, he probably dumped the knife and we'll never find it because it's such a remote area, and that's why he went back south. He went back going south. But it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, because Brett Payne was flat out asked by Ann Taylor today about Brian's route, south of Moscow.
Mm.
And she was naming specific spots where it stated in the PCA which way Brian left the quote-unquote supposed murder scene, that he went south on 95 highway. Well, Brett Payne actually had to admit today that they do not have any video of his car anywhere near where they said that he had left from.
Hi, Rodney, by the way. Rodney saying hello.
Hey, Rodney.
Yeah, Telltale has been talking about, like, maybe Brian was doing his own surveillance, if he was anywhere at all, like, for the government to expose these corrupt people. You know, and she said earlier maybe he was an informant. These are all possibilities. You know, I don't know if that's the case, but I certainly can't rule it out. You know, and David brought up a good point about the cast report being flimsy support for their narrative and the skin cells and what they expected to find in the car. And I think maybe they really were hoping to find something in his car. And
here's the thing with that. His dad drove 2,500 miles back with him from Washington to Pennsylvania. If there was anything in the car, his dad would have spotted it and he wouldn't have rode with him.
Yeah, probably not. He probably said, hey, what's this? Well, you know what? You need to turn yourself in.
Yeah. A tag reader in Loma, Colorado, picked up his tag going along the highway. So I'm wondering, because the FBI was running this case, and they were giving Moscow bits and pieces of the information that was coming in.
Mm-hmm. Like in the IGG and everything was all through the FBI.
Well, not only that, the cast report was through the FBI too. Because the FBI agent that does the cast report, Nick, is a friend of Cyray's. And Nick actually reached out to Cyray about the cast report, and Cy actually admitted that normally he doesn't testify for the defense. He testifies in most of his cases. He testifies for the prosecution. This is the first time he's ever testified for the defense, because what he saw in that cast report worried him.
Mm-hmm.
So it worried him because there was lack of data that they were going on, that the Moscow police was going on for Brian's cell phone and everything going on in the case. He saw that, and he said either it was he said either it was malicious or grossly mishandled.
Right. Yeah, there's no other options, you know.
And Heather Fitzgerald just said Jay Embry is part of the hoax.
Yeah, which person is Jay Embry?
He's the one sitting there in front of the camera with the beanie and the sunglasses on.
I mean, what is his role?
Yeah, he's the one that does the revealing, Pavarotti.
Okay.
There's a lot of speculation, and I've watched some of his videos. I like Jay Embry, and I like Pavarotti, but there's a lot of speculation going on in the true crime community that he is an undercover undercover cop. He's a plant in our community to try to steer everyone away from exactly what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Well, it certainly makes sense that any government agencies, when there's a YouTube community talking about whatever it is that they're doing or up to, that they'll put plants in. I mean, that's a standard MO. So whether or not he's one, I don't know, but there certainly probably are people who are plants. You know, if
Yeah.
nothing else, just to monitor what everybody's saying. You know, and worst case, to actually plant their own narrative in the minds of people.
Heather says maybe I'm a plant. Heather, if you're a plant, you're a rose.
Oh, that's sweet. No, she's Heather.
Hey, I'm trying to give her a compliment.
I know. But Heather is also a plant, is a flower.
She goes, let me ask my handler, LOL.
Yeah, Rodney says he doesn't think that Jay is probably, he thinks he's good because he shares facts. You know, I don't know. Embry spreads a theory where Brian did it, but is a hitman and not an incel. I don't see Brian as being a hitman, but I do see him as being, and I don't see him being an incel. I see him being maybe a little bit nerdy, but not all the way down to the incel on the spectrum of nerdy.
Yeah.
You know, and Heather says that the heather plant is a tiny rose bush, is like a tiny rose bush. I never thought about that. I just know
Heather goes, LOL, yes, it was me. Where was I on the 13th?
Yeah, I agree with Twizzlestick that Brian's not a hitman and not an incel, but he likes to study them. So I remember early on in the case, wondering, I mean, like when they had first arrested Brian Koberger, and there was talk about that survey that he was trying to do, where he posted someplace and said, you know, if you're a criminal and you're willing to talk to me, you know, I'm doing my research paper, and you know, I want to know the mind of criminals, so please talk to me, kind of thing, you know. And then now he's got his bachelor's, he's got his master's, now he's going for his PhD. You've got to have a really good, strong thesis for your PhD. And so, you know, I was thinking, hey, maybe he's, you know, researching somebody and they're going to commit the crime. And so he ended up, and like, if there was DNA and if there was evidence, or if he was a getaway driver or something, but so far there really isn't any evidence to prove that now.
Yeah.
But back then I remember thinking that he could be researching a criminal who happens to do these crimes. You know?
Yeah. But I mean, even with that, yeah, what person would drive their own car, bring their own cell phone to a quadruple homicide?
I know. And if he was doing all this like surveillance that.
Yeah, I mean, and even with that,
4 o'clock.
Yeah. The judge and the prosecution stated in an earlier court hearing he was not stalking the victims.
Right.
So if he was not stalking the victims, where's the motive?
Right. But do they still say that they think that he was in the area 12 times? Quite frankly, I think he was probably going to that friggin' Greek restaurant. You know, I want receipt of the restaurant and see if they match the days that they say he was there.
Well, see, when the FBI has stated that they can explain, because they said, oh, there's 12 pings around the house. Well, if you look at it, there's only 2 cell towers. There's one in Moscow and there's one in Pullman.
Yeah. But the thing that I was trying to mention before is that the little map thing that you had showed, there's an overlap between those 2 cell towers that's like in the middle of Pullman and Moscow is the overlap, right? And so the outer edge of the circle for that cell tower is actually near where the house is, which is only on the edge of town. There's the whole rest of Moscow that's not within that circle. You understand what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
if you're looking at the map, the right edge of the circle is right where the crime scene is. So everything outside of that is still Moscow, is like downtown Moscow. So you're telling me they don't have any cell phone service? Of course they do, which means there's another tower that's in Moscow.
Yeah,
maybe it doesn't reach the house. So they're only looking at the 2 cell towers related to Brian's house and King Road house. But what about, the Mad Greek? What about the grub truck? We saw them constantly on their phones and stuff. Where's the cell tower for that data? Because I would think if I was investigating the case, that would be relevant to timelines of where everybody was, where everybody who was. They kept asking in the beginning where, if anybody can help us with the Ethan and Xana's timeline. Even though apparently Bethany had already said, yeah, they came in, they were at the Sigma Chi party and then came straight home at 1:30, which contradicts what the Xana's father had said. That they were called. There was a call and they were having pizza. Yeah. So, I mean, then you get that done. Which is the Sigma Chi house in that cell tower? Because you know how close the Sigma Chi house is, but it would be to the left of that circle.
Yeah, the Sigma Chi house is right straight across the street from the freaking murder scene.
Right, but according to that map of the cell tower, that's right about where the signal ends for that particular cell tower. Wouldn't that be interesting if they didn't get the other cell tower, because that would show Sigma Chi data?
Yeah, and here's what I'm wondering. There was only 18% of data collected, cell data collected. There's 82% missing.
Yeah.
Missing. So how are you going to create a arrest warrant for this guy with only 18% of cell data?
Yeah. It's crazy. I don't know how they expect. I think they didn't expect anyone to look into it. They just expected everybody to trust them and trust their report and not get into where the information came from, how much information was used. They didn't expect anyone to even ask. Twizzlestick says that the tower that covers the house is the same tower that covers the road coming into Moscow from Pullman. Every time you drive there, you connect to it. Exactly, and because that's to the left. Pullman is to the left of the King Road house.
Heather just stated there are 3 towers in Moscow. All 3 of them do not overlap at the King Road home.
There you go. See, I knew that had to be and so they didn't even bother checking the other towers, which could be relevant as to Brian Koberger's whereabouts. It could be it could be relevant to the timeline of other people who was at that bar, the corner club, who was at the corner club at what times, and in previous days did Brian, how often did Brian go to the Mad Greek?
Yeah.
I mean, even on their side for motive, what if, I mean, they could propose that every time he went to the Mad Greek, he went around their house to spy on them and to stalk them. I know we've said now that there was no stalking, but like early on, if they wanted to go that route, getting that data and that information could even help them in a circumstantial way.
Hey,
but they didn't bother.
Twizzlestick lives in Pullman.
Yeah. That's excellent that we've got boots on the ground. There.
Twizzlestick was actually in the hearing today.
Ah,
He was sitting right behind Brian. I don't know if you go back and watch it.
I
Uh,
will.
you, I did a 4 hour live on it today. So the first 2 hours the hearing, and the
Mm,
last 2 hours is the breakdown with myself, Kiki, and AR. Uh,
mm,
he is sitting right behind Brian in a striped shirt.
mm. Okay, I'll look for him. And yeah, I didn't know that he lived specifically in Pullman, but by the comment about the connecting to that tower every time you're on that road, I figured that he was from the area. I've been to Idaho before, but mostly on the other side, like Salmon and you know, uh, yeah. But I've been through a couple of times, several times through Idaho, through different ways. Sometimes going up from Utah, sometimes going from Nevada, like from Winnemucca, and then up. Um, so I have a good idea of the landscape of the area, even though I haven't actually been to Moscow.
Uh, I'm going to start telling people that you live in Kopaka's old apartment.
Yeah. Oh, Twiz has a channel. Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, this like, I mean, you can ask Heather. She was in chat with me, with myself, Kiki, and AR earlier today. I was just so like, what the f about the testimony from Cyree. Cyree was basically saying, yeah, this cast report you guys did is nothing. It's a big nothing burger because you left this out and you did this, and uh, yeah, and the prosecution did cross-examine Brett Payne, but when it came to Cyree, they would not touch him with the 10-foot pole.
Mm. Oh, that was probably smart. Okay, I just subscribed to Twizzle Sticks. I see you have 2 videos. So they're 2 live videos. So I'll check them out later. But I have subscribed. Oh, bye,
You too,
Rodney.
Brian. Bye, Rodney. Yeah, Heather said, which is crazy because that's the same thing they did with Vargas.
Which thing is the same thing they did with Vargas? I'm sorry, I missed something.
They would not cross-examine her. That they
Hmm.
wanted nothing to do with her.
Okay. Interesting. See, Heather says someone should send the FBI to Payne's house overnight or over the weekend. Maybe since his testimony today did not align with what he swore in the PCA.
And it didn't align with what he said in the PCA, because he kind of halfway threw the prosecution under the bus, because when he was being cross-examined by the prosecution, they asked him where he heard it, and Brett Payne blurted out, "You guys told me. I heard it from you."
Oh, maybe Payne's the one that will flip. Maybe he figures out he was used. He wouldn't have a career anymore, at least not in a police department. Maybe he could be like Koffenberger and become a consultant.
You mean Coffendoffer?
Yeah, I'm sorry. What did I don't know what I said, but yeah, her. Hmm. But no
Yeah.
police department's going to ever hire him again.
No, not when you basically blurt out and say the prosecution is telling me what to say.
Right.
And I don't think Alyssa Jennings liked that part too much.
Yeah,
because
it sounds like he's trying to cover his own behind at this point.
yeah, Payne was basically, he was throwing he just like Mallory last week, who was throwing people under the bus. Brett Payne was throwing people under the bus today, and he basically threw the prosecutor and the assistant prosecutor under the bus when they asked him, who told you how to write the PCA, and who told you this, who told you that, and he blurted out, "You did."
Mm-hmm.
To the prosecution.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm wondering now, maybe that's why Bill Thompson turned purple.
Wow. There's so many layers to this, and so many possibilities. You know, I'm really interested in like the medical examiner and the autopsies and stuff, because if Ethan was hamstrung, like I had read in one of the reports that I cannot find, it is absolutely scrubbed. If it's true that he was hamstrung, there's no way everything went down the way that, like a single killer, and the time, it would have taken at least 40 minutes or more for this to happen, for everything to happen. You know, based on the injuries that we know about, and to know what, and they have to know that. The police have to know that there's no way this was done in under 10 minutes. I mean, with the injuries that we know about. And yet they're pushing that it happened in under 4 minutes. I mean, excuse me, under 10 minutes. Under 10 minutes. That's what they're pushing. The number 4, because I was thinking 4 a.m. And I don't buy that. I don't buy that it was under 10 minutes around 4 a.m.
No, because wow, freaking what Dylan contradicted her freaking self twice in the PCA. Actually, three times. She stated that she originally went to bed on the southeast side of the second floor in her bedroom, and then she opened the door for the second time because she heard what sounded like Xana crying. And then the male voice goes, "It's okay, I'm going to help you," or "I'm here to help you."
Right.
A paragraph later, she said she opened the door for a third time and heard Xana crying. After what she thought she heard Cronulla crying. So which one is it? Did you open your door the second time and hear her crying, or did you open your door a third time and hear her crying?
Right. I don't believe anything Dylan said. You know, but Heather's talking a lot about the knife and everything, and that it could have been made anywhere after 1982. Like, how many knives have they made after she said 40 years? How many knives have they made in 40 years? And speaking of the knife, one of the things that Tony, the ER nurse that I had on as a guest once, had talked about, was that in his experience as an ER nurse, when there is a knife attack that comes in, most of the time there are like pieces of that knife in the body because it breaks when it's hitting bones and things like this. You know, even if it's a K-bar supposed to be so strong and everything like that, but if you've got 50 plus wounds on Kaylee alone, that there's no way, he was saying, there's no way that you can stab somebody 50 times and not have at least the tip or something break on that weapon.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's so much inconsistencies into what we know medically. And so and Heather mentioned that Truth Exposed talks a lot about autopsies and the abilities with technology and stuff, because he or she worked in radiology or X-rays for their day job. So I definitely want to check out Truth Exposed as well, and because that's what I really like, is all that, the forensics. You know, that even before YouTube having a true crime community, I was always into reading about forensics and things.
Yeah. Heather goes, question, who knows where the 50 plus strikes come from originally?
Good question, Heather. I'm thinking it's like one of the families. Like, I think Steve Gonsalves might have said it in one of his interviews. You know, and there was there. I say 50 plus because I can't remember, was it 52 or 53, and I don't want to say the wrong number, so I just say 50 plus. But whoever it was, they actually said a number.
Yeah, and they said Kaylee, Maddie and Kaylee's injury patterns did not match.
Right. Yeah. This was like early on.
Yeah, because
this could have even been before Brian was arrested or something. I don't know.
This was before Brian got arrested. Kaylee's injury patterns were more brutal than Maddie's.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But now we know later that she was actually leaned up against the wall. Either she was trying to get away and scooted herself back, or he staged her that way.
Yeah, see, here's the thing, though. I don't buy what the coroner is peddling. She said they were all in their beds asleep at the time of the unalivings.
Right.
Well, if that's the case, then why was there one hell of a battle going on the second floor, according to Steve G? Between the one hell of a battle was Xana and Ethan.
Right.
And we all know Steve. Oh, don't make me be the alpha. And there's a video floating around somewhere on the internet where he was teaching Kaylee how to shoot a gun. So, if he's taught his children, how to defend themselves, whether it be with a gun or whatever, I don't think Kaylee is going to be laying in the bed, fighting her, while she's laying in the bed fighting her attacker, with him standing over her. I think she's going to be standing up vertical, just like the attacker, and duking it out with him.
Mm-hmm. Which would also take more time, by the way. Not this under 10 minutes thing. That's what I'm saying. The things that we know, and the little bit that we know, things like this, it's not going to have happened under 10 minutes.
No, and according to Jeff Knodel, the lock that was put on Xana's door was a combination lock. Like the code lock. You punch in the code.
Mm-hmm.
That was put on Xana's door. Was a code lock where you have to put in a code to get in the room.
Right.
And according to Jeff, most of the rooms there in the house had a code lock on the door.
Not only hers, most of them. Okay.
Yeah. Maddie's room had one. Kaylee's room had one. Of course, Xana's room had one. Mm-hmm. Bethany's room had one. But it was never mentioned about Dylan's room having one.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case, it would have to have been, if the door was locked, when they found it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and Ethan and Hunter Johnson had to break in to the room to find Ethan and Xana.
Mm-hmm.
That means nobody but Ethan and Xana knew the combination to that, to that keypad.
Right. But I don't know if they broke into the room, because the whole breaking into the room thing is that they were trying to see if they were okay, which I think is that whole line of thinking is a bunch of baloney, because the minute you stepped in that house, you could smell that something was wrong. There was no question that they were dead.
Yeah, because this whole thing, Maven, this whole thing, the town, the entire freaking town knew before the cops, because you had Snapchats going off, and threads upon threads upon threads of Snapchats starting at 8:30 in the morning and going all the way to 10.
Mm-hmm.
But yet the cops were not called until noon.
Right. It's ridiculous. But yet I actually heard it, and I went and investigated it myself, and I found online, and I downloaded it, a document that is the university's policy with regard to sororities and fraternities.
Yeah.
And in there it says that if there's any kind of crime, that you do not call the police and you do not alert the families, that you contact the president of your sorority or fraternity first. And then, you let them deal with it, and then they will decide at what point to contact the police and the families. It's in black and white that is the policy.
But see, now here's the other thing. Why, if not living in the house at the time, living in another state, why is Ashland Couch involved now?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, I'd heard things about, like, somebody that was going to rent that room, and that there was communications between Ashley's mother, who I guess had leased the room, and that she was going to turn over that lease to somebody else, like days before all of this happened.
Now, Ashley moved out in May of 2022 when Xana moved in.
Mm-hmm. And it just sat empty, which I think is very likely, the whole drug connection. I think AR had talked about, and explained how people who deal drugs will have a room in a house that's rented, so that way nobody's actually in that room, and so the people who are doing the drug dealing have a place that none of their names are connected to deal the drugs through. I mean, that made a lot of sense when he was talking about that.
Heather Fitzgerald said, but she came out speaking about it because Maddie Mogan and Kaylee Gonzalez's birthdays are right now, and her fundraiser is for June 15th. Because Ashland is raising money for the victims' families. But she don't even live in the same state, and her mom said that they wanted to do something special for the victims. But Ashland actually made a very interesting point. You don't know who's sitting outside your house watching.
Absolutely.
And she says that could have been me if I was still living there.
Yes, that's true. I think Heather's probably right when she says optics. How else to gain a mass amount of attention for your fundraising?
Heather, it's me. I'm outside your house.
I mean, she hasn't really added anything to the murders and how they happen and why they happen and who did it or anything like that, right? She hasn't added any information that
No.
helps with that.
Twizzlesticks just said, I think Ashland, BF, and DM are scared of getting drug charges.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another thing. You have Dylan and Bethany, which I think Bethany was kind of a non-factor that night because she was on the first floor, and which makes me wonder if they knew what was going. And I have a feeling they knew what was going on because they were more likely texting back and forth during while this crap was happening.
Right.
And I noticed in the PCA that it states that after a forensic download and a view of records from DM and BF's phones. Now, if they wouldn't say records if it's a view of the text messages. It would say records is if text messages were deleted.
Yeah, well, it seems like they have that they weren't deleted then, right? That they actually have them.
No, I think they deleted some text messages. That's why it states in the PCA after a forensic review of records. Not text messages. It doesn't say text messages. It says a forensic review of records from a digital download from DM and BF's phones. If it was text messages, it would say after a forensic review of text messages from DM and BF's phones. It says a forensic review of records.
So maybe they did an extraction of both of the phones. Because if you clone the phone, then you can give it back to them because you've got everything from it.
Yeah, and what I'm thinking is possibly if they were awake and they were texting back and forth during the times of the unalivings, they could have deleted that part. They could DM and BF could have deleted that entire chunk of their text messages because they didn't want no one knowing that they were texting back and forth during the time of the unalivings.
Yeah, well, they could delete it, but we know that I thought that somewhere did say that they were texting. So we do know that they were texting.
But see, here's the thing, though. If she cared so much for, because that one statement, that she wished she could give them all one last hug. This comes from Dylan. If she heard Xana crying,
right?
Wouldn't if you cherished your roommates like you say you do after they're no longer with us? Wouldn't you go investigate to see exactly what's going on with your roommate?
Oh, sure.
And not stay locked in your darn room?
Yeah, I think Dylan's totally lying about everything. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense, and that's why we hook on to these stories. These cases. Is because we need things to make sense. Because as long as they don't make sense, we know we don't have all the information.
Yeah, I know. Something Heather just said. But
Yeah,
that leaked conversation, my opinion, that is a fabricated conversation to use in order to trick Howard Blum into writing some stuff about the story and paying you.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me.
Now, Twizzle Stick just said, is Dylan lying or are they lying about what she said in the PCA?
True. It could be either way because Dylan doesn't come out and say anything directly, so we don't know what she told the police, if they are accurately writing down what she said or if they're stretching what she said. We don't, it could go either way at this point. But
Heather
yeah,
just
they
said,
are all lying.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it happened at 4:00.
No.
I'm sorry. I don't.
Now, explain to me, and chat, explain to me this as well, why a photography class is going to leave a camera running for 12 hours behind the King Road home.
Well, I think it was an astronomy class. So
it was a photography class.
Photography? Okay.
Yeah, they left a camera running for 12 hours at 2 a.m. That same camera spotted a girl running from beside the house as another car is pulling into the house.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
well, they did say that they handed it over to the police and that they could not speak about why they had it there.
Yeah.
So I don't know, some kind of undercover thing or whatever. I mean, if it was something innocent, like Heather mentioned, the Leonid meteor shower. If it was something innocent, then why would they just say that?
Yeah.
But so they had to have had some kind of undercover mission, whether that's undercover with law enforcement or just undercover for their club, but something that they were doing, or maybe they were peeping toms and using the photography club as a cover, but they couldn't say why they refused to say why they had it there, but they turned it over to law enforcement, they said. So if they did, then that means that they should have that the prosecution should have given it as discovery.
Heather just said the person that made the claim and said that it was their group, and their group camera did retract the statement publicly.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Heather.
Yeah, so that one, it still leaves questions though, because did the group make a public retraction just to stay out of the mess?
Heather goes, I have the retraction saved for sure in my 51 terabytes of Idaho case data.
Exactly. I mean, I can't say, why would you actually come out and say, well, yeah, I gave it to the police if you didn't really do that? Because if you're just lying for attention and saying that, then wouldn't you expect that the police would come out and say, no, this person never gave us anything? Yeah. And the police never came out and said that. Of course, they don't come, confirm or deny anything. So
it's the gag order.
Yeah. Oh, but this was so early on, though. This was before the gag order.
Yeah, what I think is the FBI was running the show behind the scenes, and they were feeding information to Moscow, so Moscow could stand in front of their nice, cute little podiums, and basically tell the world a bunch of freaking dribble. But because Chief Fry, who apparently won the election, for Latah County Sheriff, says, I'm not going to tell you how we know, just trust us. Everything was just trust us, just trust us, just trust us, just trust us. Now look what's happening. Their entire case is caving in on itself.
Yeah, they like to say that a lot.
Just trust us. Just trust us. Yep. Yeah, you can agree with me as a Gen Xer. Trust isn't given; it's earned. And So freaking Moscow police, you haven't earned any of our trust.
Yeah, we totally grew up hearing that about everything, even like our grades in school. Whether you got an A or an F, the teacher didn't give you your grade, you earned your grade.
Yeah.
And particularly with trust and also with respect, that you have to earn it, for sure. I don't know how many people say that anymore, but we definitely grew up hearing it. I hope BK's not Epsteined.
The
That would
Idaho 4 edition.
yeah.
Yeah, she goes, BK going to be Epstein Idaho 4. And she goes, Idaho 4 edition.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Heather, or I guess you were responding to David about like they asked the public's help. We need to find a vehicle, and yet they don't put a picture of the vehicle. And now put that together with the fact that they're saying they don't actually have any video of a vehicle. Well, what about the video that they're saying made the 3-point turn and all the 4 o'clock, 4 to 4:20 stuff that they're talking about with a white car? If they're now saying that they don't have any
Linda Lane.
evidence.
Yeah, the 3-point turn at Linda Lane.
So do they have footage or not of a car that they think is the killer, whether it's Brian or not?
But,
again, I don't think that car would be the killer. And if it was Brian, I think it would eliminate him as it would be exculpatory, because those crimes could not have been committed in that time frame.
Yeah, they either lost or did not save the video of the white car driving in and around the King Road home at the time of the freaking murders.
So that whole thing that they described at 4 a.m. and then at 3 something and 4 and 4:20 and all of that, they don't have any video of what they described in the PCA. That's what they said in the.
Yes, they either it's either lost or they did not save it. Of course, Brett Payne said, "Well, it's in the evidence vault, the evidentiary vault, at the Moscow Police Department, but I don't know where it is."
And yet they gave 51 terabytes of information, and it's not in there either. That's sus. No, I'm sorry. That's it. For if anything else, whatever you decide is so important that you put it in the PCA, right? It's important enough to put there, then wouldn't you have extreme caution to preserve that particular, have more than one copy, have it in more than one place? That doesn't make sense to me, that it would just get lost and there was only one copy and it's lost.
According to Mark B., no swift departure at 4:20 either. Heather Fitzgerald just said the lost footage is the second gas station footage that was erased by the time law enforcement got there.
Well, if you had some footage that you're referencing, even if you're not showing it to the public, but you're referencing something made them ask the public to look for a white Elantra during, 2013 to 2015 was the original one, something like that.
2011 to 2013. Then they expanded it. Yeah, then they expanded it to 2016.
And I think when they expanded it is when they had Brian in their sights, so they needed to have it match his car. But so what originally did they have that made them ask for the 2011 to 2013 white Elantra that they didn't show us? Did they have anything? Is it lost, or did they never have it?
Now, according to Brett Payne today, the only reason why, even Ann Taylor asked Brett Payne, okay, why expand the Elantra search from 2011 to 2013 to 2016? Well,
Mhm.
the FBI profiler said that the FBI forensic the forensic car person said that this should be what the car looks like at a later model Elantra. I'm only
Mhm.
going by what the FBI forensic car guy said.
Mhm. Yeah. So suspicious. Twizzle Stick says they were looking for the white Elantra on December 7th, and then Payne didn't know about BK until December 20th. Well, then that's a lie. If he's the lead investigator on the case, because as soon as they said they were looking for a white Elantra, which I don't know that it happened the 20 something right before Thanksgiving, and as soon as the police said that they were looking for a white Elantra, at least even internally, then the security guard noticed Brian's Elantra in the parking lot, in his apartment parking lot. Immediate, like within 24 hours, they were notified
Yeah.
by that security guard of his car.
No, actually, what happened was uh, Brian had went and switched his. They were looking for an Elantra that didn't have a front plate, and and all they had was when he had first moved there, he had the Pennsylvania plate, which that you didn't have to have a front plate with. Well, he had switched over his tag from a Pennsylvania to a Washington tag, which you're entitled to have a front plate. And the first security guard, he noticed the Elantra in the record books of them of the college, and noticed the white Elantra. Noticed it had Pennsylvania plates, and an hour later, that's a second different security guard went out. And here's what's weird: you had a security guard looking through records at midnight. An hour later, you have a totally different security guard. Decided he'd go out. He'd go out looking for white Elantras in the parking lot area.
Mm-hmm.
Came across
Right.
Brian's.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't fit the profile. It had a front plate on it, a Washington front plate. So that security guard took that, set it aside as just another Elantra.
I thought isn't it even the PCA that they described the security guard finding it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They described the security finding a white Elantra. They didn't say whose it was. They said the security guard found a white Elantra at 12 o'clock. And then at 1 a.m., a totally different security guard was out in the parking lot looking for white Elantras, and they came across the white Elantra, except it had a front plate. So they just set it aside like it's just another Elantra in the 22,000 Elantras that we're looking at.
Heather's saying that it was the WSU police and not a security guard. I thought it was the apartment security guard that it was. But anyway, all of
Okay,
that,
Heather, I will.
like she was giving some dates that the crime happened on the 13th, and that the WSU police department searched in their system, had the search in their system on the 29th of November. That sounds more like what I'm remembering. That, I mean, it was right away that internally they had, and because she said the public wasn't notified until December 7th, but they they were told actually on November 25th to be on the lookout internally. You know, so I don't know. I think I think they already had Brian Koberger in their sights around this time. Maybe they were hoping that someone would find his car. I can't believe that we've gotten to the point that we are today
Yeah.
without them having. I don't think that they stumbled across Brian Koberger because of the white Elantra. I think they were asking for a white Elantra because they knew that's what he had, and they wanted tips to come in that would bring, so it wouldn't look like they were going after him, that it would look like they found him because of a tip. That's my gut feeling about all of this.
Twizzlestick says the FBI was watching him early December. I believe it was the 1st. Yeah, because Brett Payne mentioned today in the hearing that they had surveillance teams on him early in the investigation.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's like, so why didn't they bring him in for questioning? Why didn't the normal things you would do? You're not wanting to show your cards and tip him off that he's on their radar. No, that in this case, no, that doesn't make sense.
This is the only case that I've heard of where it seems, I'm sorry to say, it seems like a freaking clown is running this entire investigation. Either that, or the FBI is running this investigation low key, and they're just feeding certain bits of information to the Moscow Police Department. Because if, say, this case implodes in the face of Bill Thompson and the Moscow Police Department, and somehow Brian is acquitted, I'm honestly thinking the FBI, if he gets acquitted, the FBI is going to step in and charge him federally.
I think that's a very good possibility that the FBI is orchestrating all of this. That sounds very possible to me.
Yeah, because the FBI is not wanting to give up the cast report to the state. The actual cast report that Cyray's friend Nick did, they are not wanting to give it to Bill Thompson. They're actually refusing to give it to Bill Thompson.
That's interesting. Like, so you come in, you're the FBI, and you come in to, I'm a police department. You come and say, oh, we're here to help you. We've got resources that you don't have. We'll help your investigation. And then you don't give them the actual report. Like, you do funny things. You do funny things with the IGG. Then you do funny thing. It just doesn't seem like the kind of cooperation that should be happening.
Heather, with that last comment about the cast report, about the FBI not returning it over, Heather goes, because there isn't one. They haven't even sent the two-way warrant to the FBI yet. They've had it for weeks. Yeah, wow. Yeah. The state has been holding the two-way warrant for weeks. I don't think the FBI will touch this now. Do you think the FBI has seen what exactly is going on in this case with Bill Thompson and Ashley Jennings and the judge? Do you think that they're just going to let this case implode in the face of the state of Idaho?
what if I'm just throwing a what if the FBI was there doing their big drug, investigation, and they figured out that Moscow was involved, and they figured they'll just let that, then for whatever reason these murders happen, and then they say, okay, we'll set them up for a fall. We'll help them, but we'll screw them as we're helping them,
Yeah,
to
Heather.
bring them down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Heather just said, I think the FBI has no data that supports Brian Koberger's guilt in this crime. According to Ray today, the reason why he stepped in was he did not like the irregularities in the cast report that his friend Nick sent over. And then finding out that Mallory did a cast report without using cell phone data or metadata, that's a huge red flag. If you're doing a cast report without cell phone data, and just like Ray said today, you cannot do a cast report without cell phone data. This report without cell phone data is just a piece of paper. It's nothing without the AT&T records and the cell phone data.
Right.
So which means the arrest warrant that Brett Payne signed for Brian from this alleged cast report, that arrest warrant is null and void.
Yeah. And I think Brett Payne is maybe feeling a little set up himself. And that's why he was in the face of everybody. From what I hear, I didn't see it myself.
And Ashley just said, and it's not even actually possible to produce that map without that information. And freaking Ray said the same thing today. Ray said that map that you guys did, you cannot do without the cell phone data.
Yeah. And then she says the sworn statement is either a lie, and that the cast report portion or his testimony today was, but it can't be both. Yeah, both can't be the truth.
And well, just like AR said earlier today in the live chat, there's going to be motions coming, motions to suppress, and possibly a motion for a Franklin hearing. What a Franklin hearing is the judge, the prosecutor, and the defense behind closed doors, and the judge, and there's gonna be prosecutorial mischarges brought against Bill Thompson during this Franklin hearing.
I don't know if it's the prosecution or the person whose name is signed on the PCA that has the things that were false. Which would be Brett Payne.
14 motions of discovery. They have not turned over anything.
Oh, well, that would be prosecution. But Frank's hearing, you said Franklin, but I think you mean a Frank's hearing.
Yeah, I said Frank's.
Is when the evidence that was given to get the search warrant was falsified or malicious, not just I'm not sure if incompetent and like accidental counts. I think it has to be malicious and like on purpose. And so therefore anything collected because of that search warrant, or an arrest warrant, then the arrest would be, so it voids whatever was being asked for from the judge, because if truthful information had been given to the judge, they wouldn't have signed it. So that's what Frank's hearing. So, but prosecution misconduct would be something different, but it certainly would apply, as you're saying, not giving the discovery.
Now, here's the thing, though. Is what Heather's saying in chat. Well, either he got the warrant returned to him on the 23rd, like he said, and used it to see historically where he was in August at the traffic stop doesn't match the cell phone, or that warrant was not returned until April, like he said on the stand today. Yeah, that warrant, the warrant for the cell records wasn't returned until April of last year. So they arrested him in December of 2022 without evidence, except for the PCA and the touch DNA, but they didn't start doing their evidence until after he was in jail.
Right, which means they didn't have it before he was arrested, for search warrants or arrest warrants.
Yeah, and Brett Payne used that rough draft of the cast report, which didn't have cell phone data in it, as the probable cause for arrest.
Yeah, and Twizzle was mentioning that the Payne probably thinks that he was being vague enough that he wouldn't be, no one would be able to say he officially lied. But the whole thing with the Franks hearing is that you're presenting information to convince a judge. So just because you said possible or something and you made your words vague, your intent was clear. Your intent was to convince the judge to sign it. And so if you were using information and you put it in there, even though you put it in there vaguely so it wouldn't officially be a lie, it's still misleading the judge. I think that's the point, is that you're misleading the judge with whatever information you're including or excluding.
Yep.
So Brett Payne's in trouble.
He ain't the only one. I bet you freaking by the end of this, Bill Thompson's going to be in trouble for prosecutorial misconduct.
Yeah, he's in trouble too.
Yeah, because freaking there's going to be freaking motions to suppress evidence, motions for dismissal. There's going to be at least 100 motions coming out after this court hearing today.
Yeah. Just how fast can Ann Taylor write them up?
I just did, Heather. Yeah, I see the woman holding the book, Heather. She sent me something in Discord. SG fabricated convo, what I said. So Steve G fabricated conversation. Well, have you noticed that Steve G and the Gonzalez family has been quiet? Yeah, they came out with that family statement last hearing about they're tired of the motions, they're tired of the hearings on motions and this and that, and they've been very quiet. They've had not done no interviews at all on live TV.
Yeah, just that one, but it was pre-recorded and edited, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but usually they talk to quite a few. When they come out to have something to say, they say it to more than one person.
Yeah.
But here they only did it to that one. It was edited, And yeah, they've been real quiet.
And I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, I do feel for them. A tragic loss of their daughter, and I feel for Ben Mogan and his wife and the Chapins, the Knodels. Um, but I've kind of wondered this from day one. Why were the Gonzalez's the only ones speaking out? I mean, you didn't hear. You heard that Ben did an interview about November 2023, a year after his daughter's been gone. You have not heard from the Chapins. The only thing you've heard from the Chapins is 2 a.m. is a dark hour. That's it. And you haven't heard from the
2 o'clock.
Huh?
Didn't they say 2 o'clock?
Yeah,
I've
2
always
a.m.
wondered about that.
Yeah, 2 a.m. is a dark hour.
But we always assume it was a.m. But I think that it was actually 2 o'clock was a dark hour. Because I've always wondered, could she actually have been saying that they got the call that their daughter had died, or hit their son, sorry, Ethan, at 2 p.m. that afternoon? They got the phone call, and so that 2 o'clock is a dark hour because it's when they were notified, rather than 2 a.m. I think she just said 2 o'clock.
No, she said 2 a.m. is a dark hour.
Okay, she said a.m. Okay.
Heather said that in the Boy Who Wore Blue book sold at Comic-Con, and $130 tumbler glass that she made.
Oh my goodness. Well, if it's for a real fundraiser or something.
No, it's not for a fundraiser. Stacy Chapin came out with The Boy in Blue, which is a children's book, and it's the Boy in Blue is supposed to be about Ethan, because when he was a kid he used to like to wear blue. And then she made a tumbler glass, and she's selling it for $130. But I would like to know, because I'm getting ready to wrap up this live, because it's just it's like 1 a.m. here, and we've been live for almost 3 hours.
Yeah, you've had a long day.
Yeah, because I went live this afternoon, and then I was live for about 5 minutes on Swamp Rose's channel because I got in like the last 10 minutes of the live her and AR had, and then I was live again right after that for about an hour, and then I had to go do fatherly and husbandly duties, so I had to end that live, and then I didn't, and right after that I started this live, so it's been an all day thing for me.
Yeah.
And that first live that I did with AR and Swamp Rose was a 4-hour live. I mean, I did 2 hours of the hearing, and then 2 hours of commentary with myself and AR and Swamp Rose. So that was 4 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm tired.
I bet. Well, I mean, as far as writing the book and making the glass, I mean, it could, for me, I would think that it could just be her way of dealing with her grief and trying to make something positive come out of it. And, when it's a supply and demand thing,
Yeah.
there's only one or a limited edition of the tumbler glass. Why should you give it away for $10 when you could practically auction it to the highest bidder, or just at a high price like 130.
Yeah, she said, and don't forget Ethan Smile tulips, gold and white. She dressed Ethan in blue, so she knew which one he was.
That's so cute.
Hunter was in green.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing about the 2 a.m. hour. At 2:54, you had the Moscow Police Department, Moscow Police Officer body cams that started, and those were near the band field, where they did that alcohol stop.
Right.
You had all this activity around the house from 2:54 to 3:14. You had those 4 people running or fast walking away from the house.
Right.
And because the police body cam spotted them in the background running underneath the street light, and that was at, I believe, 3:12. But none of that matters. The only thing that matters, because you had all this activity around the house from 2:54 to 3:14, like less than a few hundred feet from the house. Mm-hmm. But none of that matters. The only thing that matters is suspect vehicle 1.
Right. And taking the word of the frat boy, I'm just gonna call them the frat boys, taking their word for where they were and all this, and not investigating and backing up their alibis.
Yeah. I mean, just like Alyssa Jennings said today towards the end of the hearing, well, we do have other suspects we could look at.
That's a pretty big statement to make in court.
Well, if you have other suspects you could look at, why aren't you?
Exactly.
And what other suspects is she talking about?
Yep. And then there's the whole possibility with Brent Kopacka and everything, and that line, and then you've got the frat boy line, and you've got the drug cartel line. There's so many possibilities.
Yeah, thank you, Heather. She said the actual suspects.
Yeah. Maybe what needs to be investigated is, what did the police have against Brian Kohberger? Why did they think they had to put all their eggs in this basket?
Well,
what's their motive?
Well, yeah. Brian was trying to get on at the Pullman Police Department because he was getting his PhD in cloud forensics, and with cloud forensics, and if you're working at the police department, you would have access to body cams.
Right, and he was a tech guy, so he would find out all the stuff they've been doing.
Yeah, and
they don't want an outsider.
Yeah, and when he didn't get the job at Pullman, he went to Moscow for the same thing.
Yeah.
So, and if he had access to their body cams, he would be able to see all the shady stuff that they do. And they didn't want that. So
I think that's a perfect motive.
So what's the ultimate way to get rid of a nosy person? Mm-hmm. Pin a murder on them.
Especially if you've got pressure from the university.
Yeah.
That they, for all their reasons that we know about, and you've got pressure from the families of the frat boys who are very high and connected. Don't look over here. You need to find someone else. Let's get this guy.
Yeah, because the frats, the Sigma Chi, lawyered up.
Yeah, I think Green had a lot of influence, like Heather's mentioning.
Yeah. And Green was a member of not Sigma Chi, but the other fraternity on campus, the other male fraternity. I think Kappa Sigma or something like that, Kappa Delta, I don't know.
But as they refer to themselves as Greek life,
Yeah.
there's while you have a certain commitment to one particular sorority or fraternity that you were a member of, you also have a connection with all the other ones because you're all part of Greek life.
Yeah. Alpha Kappa, Alpha Kappa Lambda, and Alpha Kappa Lambda, Alpha Delta Lambda.
Mm.
That's who Green belonged to.
Mm. Yeah.
And the day of the day of the murders, he was over at that freaking frat house.
He was probably there before the coroner. I swear, you had mentioned the coroner before, and I don't think she has anything to add. I think that she's just elected to sign off the death, that somebody had died, and there was no
Yeah.
question that they were dead. There was no question.
She
So
didn't even she didn't even get there till 5 o'clock.
right, she didn't need to be involved in the how. She's not a medical person. She didn't it's out of her scope to be involved in anything with the crime scene and the medical, as because she doesn't do autopsies and things like that. She's not part of that. um
Yeah. Now see,
she just signs them off.
yeah. See the way I know it or remember it. Coroners do autopsies. Why didn't
Oh,
she do autopsies?
yeah, back in the day of Quincy,
Yeah.
um but now that's a lot of times the sheriff is the coroner. So things have changed in some jurisdictions where that coroner is just someone who signs the death certificate. That's it.
Heather
You
just
know,
said the coroner has to arrive at every scene there is a deceased person before the body can be moved.
and that makes perfect sense. That she didn't have to arrive until they were ready to move the bodies. She could just stay out of the way, let them do all their crime scene investigation that they needed to do with regard to the bodies. And when they were ready to be moved, then she could show up to say, okay, yeah, they're dead. You can move them.
Heather also
Unlike
says
Dr. Scarpetta in the Patricia Cornwell novels, which I've done on my own shows.
uh, Heather said she's an RN and also has a lot of green, which she teaches under someone at the University of Idaho. Medical examiners do autopsies. Medical death pathologists do autopsies. A coroner makes the decision as to how and when the person died, the manner and method. Law
Right.
degree. She has a law degree. But they did the autopsies in Seattle. Or no, Spokane.
Right. Right. Yeah, she had nothing to do with the autopsies. And quite frankly, you can't do cause or manner of death until an autopsy is done. So she would have to be told by the medical examiner what those answers were before she could write them and sign them off.
No, but yet, yeah, but yet she's calling the Gonzalez family's youngest daughter, who was 17 at the time, and told her how her sister died and how many stab wounds she had and this and that.
Maybe that's where we got the 52 or 53. But see, she wouldn't have counted the stab wounds. That's done in the autopsy because you have to clean up the body to count them all.
Yeah, no, she just told her, Kaylee's youngest sister, that her sister was dead, she was stabbed to death, went into gruesome and gory details with the 17-year-old, and we ran down the stairs and was telling her mom, which is Christy, Mom, I just got a phone call from the coroner. Kaylee's dead, and she told me all these gruesome details how she stabbed to death.
Right. Which was not professional, for sure. But she might not have realized she was under 18. I mean, I don't know. I just see her as kind of incompetent. I don't see her as
Yeah,
malicious.
yeah. Well, I see her as incompetent too, but yeah, when she was getting, when she basically when she was getting asked a question, she crossed her arms and sit back and defensive, and she was basically asked exactly how the kids died. Oh, they were more likely all asleep in their beds, but but yeah, but yet the patterns in her report. Kaylee and Maddie had visible stab wounds. Xana and Ethan had sharp force injuries with an edged weapon.
Yeah.
But yet she tells Ashley Banfield that they were all stabbed to death. But yet in her report, it was two of them were stabbed and two of them had sharp force injuries with an edged weapon. Which one is it?
Mm.
And if they were all asleep, then how come Xana then how come Ethan was found on the floor?
Right.
And if they're all asleep, how can one hell of a battle be going on, and where Xana's fingers damn near get severed because she's grabbing a hold of the knife?
Right. I mean, maybe she was just figuring that they were asleep in the bed, and whenever the first person in the bed was being attacked, that then the second person woke up. They woke up after it started.
That still doesn't explain Steve G's whole thing. There was one hell of a battle going on the second
See,
floor.
Heather, exactly. If the weapon had become damaged at any point on a prior victim, the wounds would look different than they did on the prior victim. Right. Because now the knife is different than it was with the first victim, or like you said, prior. So exactly. And you're not going to know that until the autopsy. But you can tell in the autopsy for sure.
Yeah, yes, and what I can't figure, what kind of irritates me is she comes out and says the toxicology report is a non-issue.
Yeah. You know what? Because she figures it doesn't matter what was in their system, as long they died by stab wounds. But it matters to the crime, because were they
Yeah.
drugged first? Or something.
Well, that is that is a college town. That is a party town. That was a party house. So, I'm not saying nothing ill towards the victims, but they were college students. Do we know if they could have been popping pills?
Yeah.
Like most college students do.
Yeah. I mean, and it's not victim shaming if they did have some drugs, and what was their blood alcohol level? I want to know what their stomach contents were.
Yeah, because Maddie and Kaylee, when they were at the grub truck, they ordered a big thing of macaroni and cheese, and Kaylee said to Maddie, "Don't worry, I'll share it with you." And then, and Maddie she was beyond drunk at the grub truck, and you could tell because the way she was swaying, and she turned around and looked to some guy, said "F you," "F you," and flipping him off.
Right. Definitely drunk.
And even who was a Jack S. Said to the big heavy set dude, don't mind her, she's wasted.
Right. And then Heather mentions that she's sure that Mabbitt did not mean that toxicology was totally irrelevant, just she didn't mean it didn't cause the death of the 4 students. That would make sense. She could have just said it in a bad way, and that's what she meant. That's possible.
And then she says down below that, hammered like Thompson in Tijuana. I'm gonna get off of here, and a White Claw wasted boot cocky. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
All those freaking cops dumping out all those White Claws. I think she's talking about.
Okay. Well, don't
Alright.
forget to hit the thumbs up button, like the video.
Yeah, don't forget to smash that like, guys, and don't forget to share the channel to get this channel out there.
Yep.
Yeah, she said I gotta throw that in there for Karen Reed. Yeah, love you, Heather. You also have a good weekend. My birthday is on Saturday, and
happy birthday!
me and Heather actually share a birthday.
Oh, happy birthday to you too, Heather.
And I'm gonna be grilling out for the kids, but the adults are having shrimp gumbo.
Alrighty.
I haven't cooked gumbo in years.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah, all right, you guys, peace out.